especially nowadays, the move is that, you should have a video for everything. As an audience member, as a consumer, like, yes, when there's a video for something, I tend to click on it more than if it's just a still picture. So I definitely understand that. So although, it takes more time, takes more money or whatever, I think it's definitely worth it. And I think your audience can connect to you a lot better.
You're listening to Inside Acting, a podcast dedicated to demystifying the inner and outer game of success in the entertainment industry. I'm Trevor Algatt, and in episode 254 today, I sit down for the second half of my interview with DIY independent musician producer Marie Hsiao. In part 2, we chat about her foray into composing music for video games, what it's like to have her work featured in TV shows and commercials and what that means for her business, collaborating and performing as an introvert, self-producing music videos and why a video for everything is kind of the new rule, and why she chose Portland and not a more central industry hub like LA or New York as her home base. That and more coming up in episode 254. Stick around. Support for this episode of Inside Acting comes from Rehearsal Pro, the next version of Rehearsal, the essential app for actors. It's available on the iTunes App Store right now, and if you want to learn your lines, be off book for your auditions, explore your character, make stronger choices, walk into the room confidently, and book the office, go to rehearsal.pro/IAP right now, where you can learn all about the great new features in this newest version of Rehearsal and download it for yourself. It's a groundbreaking app, and it was designed by actors for actors, specifically around the process of learning your lines. That's rehearsal.pro/IAP. Hey everybody, this is Trev. Welcome to episode 254. It's just me this episode, but we're hoping to have AJ back soon. Just a quick announcement before we jump into this episode. It's going to be pretty simple today. We're just going to talk to Marie. But I do want to remind everybody that we have this Headshot Express Day coming up as of this recording in just a few days. It's coming up this coming Sunday, October 23rd in Burbank, and it's kicking off at 11 a.m. So this is the last episode that's going to be published before this happens. So if you're listening to this before October 23rd and you'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to add a great look from a great photographer to your portfolio, email Adam, who is our photographer, Adam Emperor Southard. Email him at bestlaheadshots@gmail.com. It's $100 for one look. If you're an IAP member, just let him know. Hi there. Got a cat over here. It's in Burbank. All the details are in the graphic on our website, also in our newsletter and all over our social media channels. So if you're interested in taking advantage of this, now is the time to act. So we also have a great bunch of questions and comments to respond to in this episode, but I'm going to save them for when AJ is able to rejoin us. So without further ado, part 2 of my chat with Marie Hsiao. Enjoy this and catch you on the other side.
I know that I've been sleeping, I know that I've been dreaming, but now the sun is streaming, and I swear that I've been here before, not just the act of being caught somewhere in between, and I just can't help this feeling. I swear that I've been here before.
You've had a lot of your music featured in television shows and things like that, and commercials. What was the process like to get your work featured there? I mean, do you work with a team, or is there a service of some kind that you use, or was this built up through relationships with producers? How did that work out?
I currently work with a company based out in LA who do sync placements. So I'm on the roster, and whenever companies reach out to them asking like, oh, like we need a song for this scene. What do you have? They'll kind of push it through and see how they like it. Yeah. And other times, not as often, but like the music agency of the television show will reach out to me and my manager and kind of ask them a few questions. And yeah, very, very happy to be working with my team.
Very cool. Very cool. And you're also, and I think this is so exciting, you're also getting into writing music for video games.
Yeah.
So I was just telling you before we started recording, I was just on your website and I saw this new little tab for video games, and I went to it and you've got a playlist put together of, I guess like sample tracks, like little shorter instrumental type things, that people can sort of, test out in their game designs. And that's really, really exciting. I read that you're a big gamer, and I think it's really cool. So can you talk a little bit about the possibilities here, and maybe how this became a focus for you?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I've always kind of been a gamer. I grew up playing like Kingdom Hearts and like The Sims, Animal Crossing. I still play Animal Crossing. I played it last night. Just like I just love that world. I love being transported into like fantasy places and things where you can kind of talk to people also. And anyway, enough gushing about video games. So I've always been a fan, and just recently I was like, why don't I merge the two? I love making music. I love playing video games. Looking at some of the scenes from my favorite games, and I'm thinking what I would want to hear while playing that game. And so that's kind of how I created those samples that you can hear on my website, kind of taking what the pre-existing soundtrack sounded like and then what I could do with that. If someone wanted like a dreamy kind of sounding music at this particular place of their game, then like this is what I would do for that.
I'm curious, you've got a great sampling of work on your site, but what's the next step there? Are you working with your manager or another team to sort of move into this space?
Yeah, well, I just went to PAX West, this gaming convention last weekend, and I printed out a bunch of business cards with my website link on there where they can download the samples and stuff. And so I walked around and just introduced myself, handed my cards, and my manager helped making contacts with this PR company who helped like foster some additional relationships where I could meet potential game developers who need music in their games. So it was just really amazing to be in that world. Like it just felt so right. Like when like something happens and like your creative person is like, yes, like this is where you need to be. And I totally felt that. And so the next steps, I've just been reaching out to indie game developers who I admire and, sending over my reel and waiting to hear back.
Oh, that is so cool, man. I'm also a big fan of video games and especially the music. I have a really vivid memory of beating Mega Man 2 for the first time in my life when I was 11 years old. And the music at the end made me sob. I just sobbed. There's like a picture of Mega Man like walking through a field in the different seasons and like the seasons changed and the music was so gorgeous. And I remember just sobbing. And I remember, sort of a part of me observing me react to it this way and thinking like, wow, Trev, that's the power of music.
Oh my God, totally. Yeah. The power of music and the power of video games. I feel like it's kind of an underrated art medium.
Yeah.
We'll kind of glaze over it because it's like, oh, it's games, but like it's like interactive. Like you yourself are controlling a character, and like I feel like more you become this character more so than maybe when you're watching a movie because like you're choosing their actions, and so you become really connected. And having that experience paired with like the right kind of music, I feel like, oh my God, like it just gives me chills sometimes. Like it's a really magical thing.
It's so immersive, and so it hits you on so many different levels. That is so cool. And so that's two sort of major arms of your musical expression, and the third one I want to talk about is a collaboration with Henry Bardot. who is a brilliant musician. I discovered his stuff shortly after I discovered yours. I'm not sure how I came across his Bandcamp page, and I didn't really connect you guys until I saw Perlo, which is your sort of collaborative music project. And you guys have a beautiful EP that came out just a few months, I guess it's more than a few months ago now. It was over the winter, over the Christmas. So can you talk a little bit about that, about how you guys connected and what it's like to collaborate with somebody in a pretty, I guess, like the songwriting you guys do seems more intimately collaborative than maybe a typical collaboration. So can you talk a little bit about how this came about and what it's like to work with Henry?
Yeah. Well, Henry had reached out to me like a few years ago, and we met in New York and like traded music, and we're like, oh, this is like, we both were big fans of each other. And we didn't start writing music though together until last year. So when we were working on our EP, because he is like, other than being a great songwriter producer, he's a great engineer and mixer. And so he actually mixed a lot of my songs for my Empty Nest record.
I think that's maybe how I found him. I was looking at the production credits for some of your work, and I saw him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so after that, we started writing together, and it was a little tough for me at first because I always, the most comfortable writing situation I can be in is when I'm alone in a room with four walls and a door that I can close. Like that's where I feel like I can kind of get to like the real stuff. But Henry he's very open about ideas and melodies, and so he'll come to me with like, a guitar progression, and he'll be like, what do you think? And so I've kind of like gradually been warming up to the idea of being so vulnerable in that way around someone else. So yeah, our process, we kind of go back and forth between being like super like together writing all the time, and we're trying this new thing now where we kind of produce / write via like email. So like he'll do a line of like a melody and a guitar strumming thing, and I'll take it into my Pro Tools and switch it around and be in my comfort zone and see what happens. And then we'll come together and then like actually write in person. So it's like a mix of both our favorite kind of ways of writing.
I really love that. And I've always dreamed about having that kind of creative relationship with somebody where we could just swap files via email or something and just sort of, remix them and then send them back and just sort of do a fun collaboration that way. So anybody listening to this that wants to do that, contact me. I'd love to be a part of that. Very cool. So you play live quite a bit as well, both solo and also with a band, and then also with Henry as Perlo. So I'm curious because I know a lot of musicians who are more introverted. I love Imogen Heap. You mentioned her as one of your main influences, and I worship the ground she walks on. And I remember reading how she's so much more comfortable in what she calls Hideaway, which is her home studio. And she finds touring to be not strenuous or stressful, but out of her comfort zone. So what is it like for you to play live?
I'm kind of the same way. I'm a very introverted person. And so when I do shows, like I just need to be alone afterwards. Like some of my friends are like, oh yeah, let's go out. Let's get drinks and like go to karaoke and stuff. And like,
you're like, I just sang for an hour.
It's like, no offense, but that's like the last thing I want to do right now. Because it's so stimulating. And like, when you're up there, I give it everything that I have. And so afterwards I'm like, I'm drained. I need to sleep and not think for a while. And so, but at the same time, it's like, I love it so much, which is weird to hear me say because I am such an introverted person. And I like keeping to myself. I'm kind of shy. And so, I was, it reminds me of, the first time I performed for an audience ever was the middle school talent show. And I remember when I put my name on the sheet, I was like, I looked at it and I was like, what? Like, Marie, what are you doing? Like, you are the quiet girl. Like, that's literally what people would call me in school because I just wouldn't talk. And I'm like looking at my name, like, why did I do this? And then some greater force, some weird confidence that I didn't even know that I had, just was like, okay, you're gonna do it. And I'm like, okay. So I feel like when you feel that energy, it makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do. That kind of, the book Quiet by not Julia Cameron. Who's that by?
I know.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly. It's on my reading list. I've heard it recommended by so many people.
It's one of my favorites, and she talks about how when you're pursuing like your life passions, what you're meant to do, like it allows you to expand yourself like a rubber band. Like I'm still an introverted person, but for some reason I can be that kind of person on stage, and then I return to my normal self. But if it wasn't for music, I would never ever think about doing that.
You work with a band, I think, sometimes. Do you hire them, or are they friends, or how does that work for you? Yeah.
When I was in New York, there was this group of guys who I hired, and they were great. Like they were able to listen to like the different stems of my music and just like play the parts. So I didn't really have to write them out or anything, because I'm, as I said, very bad at theory. But it was that was the first time I ever performed with a band, and it was so much different than what I was used to. I was like I'm not holding guitar anymore, so like what do I do with my hands? And I was just like at first like very uncomfortable, but the more I did it was like I was like, oh, like now I can actually focus just purely on how I'm delivering these words and these lines. And so it was very freeing in that way. But I like both of them. I really also love performing solo because I feel like I'm in control of everything in the way that I feel most comfortable. Like I can take a longer breath here, or like hold out this note as long as I want, and like read the room, see what I think would kind of hit them in the right way. Versus with a band that I didn't like start off playing with, so they don't know me as well as I know myself. There's pros and cons to both of them, but yeah, it's both fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you use like loop pedals and things when you perform solo, I think, to sort of be your own backup band. Is that right? Yeah. That's cool,
Lots
man.
of fun.
Loop pedals that's one of those things that I'm really interested in, but also scared of because I don't know how to use it. But I feel like it would be such a blast to sort of accompany yourself.
It is. It's like, it's really like harmonies and reverb and like all those things. That's like my favorite thing. And so to be able to do that live is incredible. And I have a lot of fun. The audience has a lot of fun. So it's a good time, except when like, it's also very scary because it's all live. So I was playing this one show and I was using my looping pedal. Someone brought a skateboard to the show. I guess they like rode there on it, and it like, I was looping and recording, and the skateboard fell on like the cymbal of like the kit show, and I was like, oh no, and it got into loop, but luckily it was like exactly in time with the music, so it worked out fine. But like, yeah, it can be a little bit scary sometimes because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like we talked recently on an episode. I shared how I was like just terrified of improv acting. It's one of those things that scares the crap out of me because it's so easy to, with improv, it's all about saying yes. You like, that's the rule. You say yes to everything that comes up. And I imagine with looping and performing live, it's like, oops, make it part of the song and hope it doesn't like totally suck or is weird or anything.
Yeah, definitely.
So between your solo work and you've got some merchandise available on your website and you sell and stream music and stuff. And then you've got Perlo, and then you've got video game music, and you've got your live performances. You're able to 100% support yourself on your music. Yeah.
Yeah. Very lucky to do so.
That's awesome. And have you ever had to, have you always been able to do that, or have you ever needed to work a side job?
Yeah, I've, because I started at such a young age, I never really had to work a side job because I was still in middle school and high school. So like I wasn't paying rent. I didn't have bills to pay. So I was just kind of forming my fan base in a very comfortable environment. Like there was no need to like, I got to put this album out so I can make money. It was just like, oh no, I'm going to put this album out because like it's really fun. And so I was able to get a really supportive fan base that, eventually started to buy my music. And yeah, because of that, I'm able to do it full time.
That's so cool. Without getting into specifics, you don't need to share any numbers or anything, but I'm curious which aspect of your work brings in, generally speaking, the bulk of the revenue for you. Is it recordings and streamings? Is it sales of merchandise, or what is it, would you say?
I'd say, it depends. If it's iTunes versus Spotify, definitely like iTunes, definitely the hard downloads versus streaming, because as as in the streaming world, it's not a fun place to be for artists, but yeah, I'd say iTunes. And also sync placements are wonderful. They help a lot. And performing also. So yeah.
Cool. Okay.
All three of them. Yeah.
So it's a nice diversified sort of, and I kind of hate talking about it in business terms, but I think it's important to look at it from that standpoint, because at the end of the day, you can't make art if you can't feed yourself.
Totally. It's very important.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that whole streaming situation is a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah. And I'm lucky that I'm not with a label, so I do get like a larger portion than an artist on a label would get. So I'm happy about that.
Well, I think for iTunes downloads, I think artists / labels take away 70% or so of the total money. So if it's $1 for the song, they take home 70 cents. And
right.
for streaming, it's like, I think it's just pennies per stream.
Pennies. Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Okay. And do you notice a bump in downloads or streams after you play a show, or after you have a song placed in a commercial or TV show?
Yeah. The sync placements are wonderful because they expose my music to a really big audience, and it's really helpful to go. I distribute through TuneCore, and you can see weekly what your downloads and streams are like. So I can see when there's been a bump in sales very easily.
And you can see that almost always it's after somebody Shazams your commercial or something. You see, right.
Yeah, and like my most popular tracks, I think on Spotify, I think a song I had on Grey's Anatomy, I think that's up there. And like I think if it wasn't on Grey's Anatomy, I don't think anyone would listen to it that much. So it's really cool to see the effects of that.
Was that Lift Me Up?
No, that was actually a cover of Fame. That song. And I remember maybe that was 3 years ago or so. But I mean, I still have people writing comments like on YouTube or sending messages like, "Oh, I just heard your song on that episode, and it's really great." I'm like, "Oh, cool! Like it's still working."
It's so cool, man. It's a little bit like that with acting too. When it comes to residuals, like I shot an episode of Bones, a really small part on an episode of Bones, over a year and a half ago, and I still get fat residual checks for it. And I'm like, "This is awesome." I would love.
It's weird. I feel like I'm cheating or something when I when I get that check. I'm like, what? Like I didn't do anything, but I'm like, oh yeah, I did back then.
Yeah. Cool. So for other musicians listening, would you definitely recommend they reach out for sync placements, getting their stuff placed on TV and commercials?
Yeah. I think it's great exposure and pretty profitable. So I think if you can find a company that understands you and will work your material, I think definitely.
Cool. I had a company, I had some music put up on MySpace. This is how long ago this was. On MySpace years and years ago. And they reached out to me and they said, we would love to work with you and get your music featured in television and stuff. And it's only $400 a year to work with us. And I was kind of like, something doesn't sit right with me about that. Is that standard practice, or was that a scam?
The company I work for, and I think most companies do, they take a commission of they take a percentage of whatever that placement was versus like an upfront fee.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's kind of the standard.
Yeah, that seems like the standard. I mean, in acting, it'd be a little bit like an agent charging you a yearly, fee instead of taking a commission or an addition to. So, yeah, I figured it was something felt sketchy about it to me. But good to know. Good to know. So the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is your self-produced video work, because, like I said at the beginning, I discovered you through this excellent TuneCore blog post that you wrote, where you talked about putting together the music video for Winterwell off of your second album, and it was such a cool video. And you edit yourself, you shoot it yourself. I know you had a person that you collaborated with for that particular one, but so much of your stuff is just DIY. Like, I think in like your studio or your room. So can you talk a little bit about your process when it comes to that and why it's important?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started making music videos or just cover videos, like, I did it myself pretty much out of necessity, because I didn't know anyone else who would be able to do that for me within a reasonable budget. So I just started doing it myself, and I invested in like a Canon T2i, which I still use today. I actually, fell in love with the process of editing videos and coming up with storylines and ideas. Now, when I do music videos, I like working with videographers who can shoot for me, like the shots that I see in my head. Like, I'll come up with a storyline and like have like, very specific ways I want this to be shot, and then go back and I'll do the editing, because I feel like I see a vision in my head, and it's hard for me to sometimes like really say how I want it done. And I'm a very DIY person. Like, I love taking control of doing that. So it just works for me that way. Because, at the end of the day, if I like someone's shooting style, like, that's the best thing. And so I can use like their creative abilities for what they're good at best, and then use mine as in like storytelling, more detail oriented, like this shot needs to be here and here and here. So I kind of prefer that kind of collaboration versus like having someone shoot the video and then like not really hearing from them, and having something and being a little bit disappointed and like, I wish I kind of had a different idea of the way the scenes would be laid out.
Yeah. And you use, I guess you taught yourself to use some editing software, and I believe you use, or at least at some point used, Sony Vegas?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And do you still use that?
I not anymore, because I made the switch to Mac not too long ago. And so now I'm using Final Cut. Yeah, but yeah, like Logic and Pro Tools, they're like, pretty similar.
Yeah, your music videos are beautiful, and I think it's so cool that you take that extra step of making a video for some of your music, whereas so many artists just throw up some artwork with the track on YouTube and call it a day. Have you noticed that those videos really have, I guess, served you in a positive way, as opposed to just throwing up that artwork and that being that?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially nowadays, the move is that, you should have a video for everything. And I mean, as an audience member, as a consumer, like, yes, when there's a video for something, I tend to click on it more than if it's just a still picture. So I definitely understand that. So although, it takes more time, takes more money or whatever, I think it's definitely worth it. And I think your audience can connect to you a lot better when they can either see you or see something that you made in video form than like a still picture. It shows that like you went the extra step, and I think they appreciate that. Yeah.
I've read that 80% of people are visual learners, and so we soak up information far more efficiently when it's presented visually than through some other modality. So that's awesome. Wow. So full-time musician with several different projects going on. This is really cool. The last question I want to ask before I get to our final two questions, so there's three more questions, and I'll let you go. Is I think it says in your bio that you're based out of Portland. And I know you grew up in Jersey. I grew up in Philly, so East Coast represent. Spent many summers in Jersey, and now I'm in LA, and you are also on the other side of the country, more or less. So what prompted the move to Portland, and why not a more central musical hub like Nashville or something?
Well, having grown up in New Jersey and being so close to New York City, when I was in New York for school, that's like one of the music centrals as well, and so I was in it, and it was fine, but I really didn't feel in my element. Like, I really need nature. I really need to have to be able to look outside and see trees and go to a park that's close by. And so being in New York kind of was very helpful in that I realized what I needed to flourish. And so Henry and I were actually on tour, I think 2 years ago. I was opening for this artist, Gabrielle Applin. She was doing a West Coast tour, and so I was opening for her. And one of the stops was in Portland, and we were both just like, wow, like, everyone here is really nice. And the city is like a very good in-between of New York, like crazy, like everyone just talking fast, walking fast, etc. And like somewhere, more remote. So we were like, we should probably just move to Portland. And so we did. We didn't really think about it much because it just felt so like obvious to do. And so, we've been here for, I think, a year now. And it was a little tough the first year of being away from home and not really knowing anybody out here. But again, it was like an extremely helpful learning experience and like what I need to be creative, which I figured out is like, I need to have a room by myself, and I need to have a setup that's easy to use, and I just need to have some alone time. That's like those things, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So have you noticed, bonus question here, have you noticed that that would you say you don't really need to live in one of these, quote unquote hubs, industry hubs, in 2016? I mean, because there's so much is done over the internet these days. Is it necessary to have a home base in a place like LA or whatnot, or you're able to make it work in Portland?
Yeah, I think, it helps as far as like a business standpoint to be in those areas, because like you're just closer to those companies, and you can have more meetings and have more co-writes and etc. But if you are like doing the DIY approach from your computer, it's very easy to do nowadays. And, you can do what you do in your house and then go touring those places and see those people. So I'd say nowadays it's pretty easy to do, although I do notice like the difference in energy and in culture from New York to Portland. Portland's a little less energetic than New York City, and I feel that way too when I'm here. It's like my mornings are easier, are quieter, are calmer, and that's it's not good or bad. I think that in some ways, like, I kind of take it easier on myself, so like mentally I'm better, but like maybe I'm not producing as much material as I did in New York. But I think that it's also about like how you treat your work time, and it's just interesting to think about how your workspace kind of influences how you work.
You just prompted a question I forgot I wanted to ask, which was, what does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day, I wake up not super early. I wake up probably like 9 o'clock-ish, and I really like cooking healthy breakfast. Like, I love making like oat pancakes and like scrambled tofu eggs or something like that. Like that, that's the best thing for me. So I'd probably do that, and then answer emails, fan mail, just like tend to that kind of stuff. And then I'll do probably whatever music work I need to do for about 3 hours, and then take a break midday, because I find that like I am like creatively pretty dead midday, and so I kind of just take that time to like either like work out or like do something, just like get my mind off of that. And then I go in for another like 3 or 4 hours after that, and then call it a day. Unless like I'm a night owl. I've always kind of been that way, and so I feel super creative at night. So in the case I like, oh man, I feel the inspiration at night, I'll stay up late. But that's pretty much what a typical day is like.
Okay, very cool. I'm always so fascinated to hear how other creative people work and where they find that their creative times are and what their routines are and things like that. And it's fun to, I sound like an internet stalker, but it's fun to see on your Instagram, the different sort of things you'll do. You got music pictures, and then you've got pictures of like candle making, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, you don't just do music all the time as a person, like, I mean, not you, but like, I think we have this tendency in our minds to want to really label people as one thing, and it's like, oh, I just imagine this person in my head, and all they ever do is train to run track.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm the worst at that. Like, I forget that people are real people, and so like, I think when I look at myself a lot, I'm like, oh no, like you should be working more, and like I feel really bad, but like I think when the way people present themselves are like almost always like a heightened sense of themselves. So the track runner is not like running all the time. Like they have lives too. I think I forget that.
Yeah, it's easy to forget. So it's really fun to follow your journey specifically, because it's fun to see just the different things that you do that feed you that aren't necessarily sitting down and making music all the time. So the final 2 questions, we ask these 2 questions of all our guests, and I'm really excited to hear your responses, although you may have sort of answered them already. But the first one is, do you feel like this path, this career path, this creative path chose you, or do you feel that you chose it?
I feel like it chose me. When I was growing up, I didn't really question anything. I was just like, I really like playing piano, and it's here, so I'm going to do it. Like, I was never really consciously making any choices, and so I just kind of did whatever felt right, and I feel like it chose me in that way because I didn't really have to think about it much.
And then the second question is, if you could condense all of your experience, all your lessons learned, mistakes, victories, all of everything, if you could condense all that down into one pearl of wisdom or nugget of wisdom to pass on to somebody also walking this path, what would that one nugget of advice or wisdom be?
Wow. Okay. I would say to really listen to your inner voice and not to lose sight of that. And if you're really following what you really want to do and what you think you were put on this earth to do, then like goodness will come from it, and just don't be discouraged.
That's beautiful. Well, I can't think of a better note to end on than that. Marie, if people want to find out more about you, find your website, find you online, where can they go?
You can go on, my website is just mariemusic.com, and you spell Marie like M-R-E-E. And you can find me on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, if you're looking for music. And then on social media, I'm also Marie Music. So just as long as you type in Marie Music, you're fine. Cool.
Awesome. Well, Marie Hsiao, thank you so very much for taking the time to chat with us. This was very cool for me, and I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of it as well.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Guys, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed this interview series with Marie Hsiao. She is a DIY independent producer, musician, but I think that her thoughts, her approach, her advice, her workflow, all of what she shared is really applicable across the board, regardless of what creative niche you may find yourself in. And what really resonated for me about this interview was the stuff about knowing what you need to be creative. And for her, she really identified it pretty early on that she needs nature nearby, and she needs a room with 4 walls, as she said, with a door she can close to kind of go into and be in solitude to create. And she also knows when her magic time is, to borrow a phrase from the Craig Ballantyne interviews, that time of day when she feels most creative and productive, and then also identifying, equally importantly, the times of days where she just knows she's kind of running on fumes and needs to go out and recharge. So a lot to take away here. I hope you guys connect with her online. You can go to her website, as she mentioned, mariemusic.com. In fact, just type in MREE anywhere online, and you'll find her stuff on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, all those places. And she's all over social media as well. And sign up for her newsletter. She emails pretty rarely, but good stuff to be found there, especially when she's got like music on a commercial or something like that. So it's kind of cool to follow that journey. So that's it for this episode of Inside Acting. I'm going to save picks of the week for a future episode when AJ can rejoin us. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Today's episode of Inside Acting was produced and co-hosted by me, Trevor Algatt. Jen Levin is our production coordinator. Gadali Gubarek is our marketing and web director. Deborah Smith is our community manager. Timothy Patrick Waterman is our Director of Public Relations. Me, Trevor Algatt, edited and mixed today's episode and composed our theme and interview music, and Fern Lim designed our logo. You can sign up for our weekly email dispatch and listen to all of our recent episodes, in fact, all of our episodes, over at our website, insideacting.net. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. And if you do nothing else, a favorable review on iTunes goes a really long way for us. It's a lot like putting a tip in our tip jar, and it helps other people discover the show as well. Big thanks to our sponsors, Rehearsal Pro and VO2GoGo.com, the award-winning voiceover training system and winner of Backstage's Reader's Choice Award for Best Voiceover Training 4 years in a row. And if you haven't heard, you can go to vo2gogo.com/start to get a free Getting Started in VoiceOver online class that'll help you add voiceover to your acting portfolio. These are the same classes that I teach on a monthly basis. And you can start again at vo2gogo.com/start. And also a big thanks to you guys, our listeners. At the end of the day, it's you guys that make this thing happen. So if you really dig this show and you want to maximize its value in your life and career and connect with a whole community of people that are also on this journey, and if you want to support the podcast continuing to be produced, you can sign up as a member and get cool perks. You get access to our private member community. You get invites to exclusive member meetups. You get fun freebies, special bonus content, discounts, and more for $7 per month. You can visit insideacting.net and click on the membership tab to sign up as a member. Or you can make a one-time, no-strings-attached, tax-deductible donation through PayPal if you'd like. Just visit us at insideacting.net/contribute to make that contribution. And I know that we've had at least a few people say that they're not really fans of PayPal and would prefer not to support PayPal by making a contribution to our show via PayPal. So let us know what other services you would like to use or would trust. Between Venmo and Square's Cash.me, I think that there's a third one as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a few out there. So let us know if one of those you'll be more comfortable with, and we can set that up. And that does it for episode 254 of Inside Acting. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, get whatever you need to be creative.